Good morning and welcome back to the 60-second ball door, still live here at Paul Ricard in the south of France. And all the way through the night, it's been the #1 Suzuki Castrol of Peter Goddard, Terry Reimer and Brian Morrison right out in front, being chased down by this team, the number 11 Kawasaki of Dorjek, Lavia and Isuzu. But unfortunately, just a little while ago, about 17 hours of racing and a major problem dropped them back about 18 minutes, and now it looks like the number 11 has retired. The Kawasaki that was running in second place has abandoned the race, and this is live as we speak. Jehan Dorjek's off the bike and very, very unhappy with that. Just one lap down on the Suzuki all the way through the night, and just before we went live, had a major problem. He went back out on the track again, did about 2 laps, but apparently the problems they have been having with the bike seem to be terminal now. So that puts the Honda of Lavier, Poland and Costas into second place, 4 laps down on Goddard, Reimer and Morrison. Goddard still out on the bike. He just came in for a pit stop. I was expecting Brian Morrison to get on the bike. Lost a bit of its force, and that allowed some rain to come down on the track. It didn't cause too many problems for many of the riders. It's just a matter of tyres. You're seeing the #1 Peter Goddard out on the bike, and yes, that is the Phase 1 Endurance Suzuki out on the track. A little bit before I left last night, we were looking at the Phase 1 Endurance machine having major problems, and in fact, just as I was leaving in second place, the second Suzuki still running in third place, but 7 laps down on the leaders. The Kawasaki still shows on the leaderboard, but they have withdrawn from the race. That moves the Dafix Works Honda, the number 7 team, from 5th place up into 4th. Dafix with Jean-Pierre Jondat, Mauro Luciari and Pierre-Riba Cabana on that RC45. Some people that we would have expected to lose some places have stayed out. Some people, in fact, all the way through the Phase 1 Honda Elf machine. And that in turn is 4 laps behind the #1 Suzuki, which you're looking at now. Still some rain slicks on. But while I was out a little bit earlier, it had stopped raining. A dry line is out there. And Peter Goddard doing an extra stint on the machine, it seems, because I was speaking to Burr earlier on. They were up to about 205s, doing standard 205s, but they are still in the race. I spoke to the team before we came on air, and the bike was still running, had no problems, but they were thinking that there was a slight intermittent electrical fault. And then just before we went off air last night, they dropped a load of time on the back of the circuit. The Honda, who are now in 4th place. Still just over, well, nearly 7 hours left to race. A long time left for things to change here at Paul Ricard's. The wind died down, but the wind is still there. The Mistral is still blowing, though not as fierce as it was yesterday. But of course, all the parties going on around the track, and a lot of Christian Lavier on the machine. The Honda, the works teams, all of them beautifully turned out. The Honda still looking as fresh as a daisy after over 17 hours of racing. Foot up means he's going to come into the pits. Warning to riders from behind, you're not going to take your hands off the bars here. It's normally a foot signal. Somebody else down. I was saying that early on in the day, as after the sun comes up, things can happen. Nighttime, not a lot this time round at Paul Ricard, but as the sun comes up, concentration can lapse. Lavier off the bike. Quick top up with oil, greased, and William Costes gets on board. Fairly long pit stop, this one. Normally it's a lot quicker than that. The rider, we're trying to find out where they actually were at the time. Obviously not too far up the leaderboard because it's taken me some time, but it looks like they're out now. Kawasaki, which is the top place Kawasaki at the moment. Then the number 21 machine, Kurt Blau Racing. Yes, it is. And as Peter Goddard still extends Suzuki's lead here, it looks like finally they had problems with the bike. They were in the pits for 18 minutes, went out again, and then came back and retired. And while we were on the break just before last time, and this time I went down to the pits to try and find out what had happened, and apparently they'd holed their radiator and lost a lot of coolant and was still running the bike. Dorjeks was on the bike at the time, and he didn't know that he was losing water. And they run the bike for quite a while, came back in, and changing the radiator is a standard thing to do in also during the night, just as I was about to leave, a major problem with one of the top privateers out there. In fact, I would call them the top privateer, the Phase 1 Suzuki team.
And we had a fuel pump failure right at the bottom of the circuit, post 7. That meant a 25-minute push-in by Tony Rees. Tony was not happy. He got the bike back though. We quickly got it going, only to be followed shortly afterwards by a loom fault. So there was an hour between 8:15 and 9:15 that was a disaster for us. But very quickly, the guys got themselves together and we've had a big pullback. We dropped to 50th place by 8:15.
Teams now, and you are a privateer team, admittedly one of the best in the world. And
as we've got on our works caliper guys, there's no doubt about that. The only difference here is the machinery. But when we got conditions like this and the track's just drying, we've had early morning showers, this is a leveler. Now, the works guys have been going around in about 2.8, 3.2, something like that. We're going around in 4s at the moment. So I think that's a credit to them, and it demonstrates that our guys are actually riding.
The bike is equally as tricky. They're on screen at the moment, number 50, and dicing with the Dafix Honda, who always find it difficult to get past the Phase 1 bike. Out there because, of course, the only Mobil 1 Yamaha that was out in the race, and lot of publicity went into producing Jean-Marc Delatang, Jean-Philippe Rougier and Jean-Michel Bale, so 3 Jeans on the Mobil 1 Yamaha. And at 6:30 yesterday, Jean-Michel Bale on the bike, when he hit the hay bales, had a big crash. There was a fire, the bike destroyed itself, but Jean-Michel Bale is okay, which is the best news we've had. And so that means that Yamaha's challenge has evaporated, as has the very, very hot laps. I managed to get an interview with Igor, and he said, no, that's just the way I race. Well, maybe you shouldn't have done that because they withdrew with a problem. I wonder if you know what was happening with the number 10 machine.
It's funny, Clive, at that time of the race we were involved in our own scrap with so many teams around us. I haven't a clue what happened up there. I'll tell you what I haven't got a clue about though. That works Yamaha you mentioned earlier on. There's more to that story when they crashed it and it burnt. What brought them off was a blowing black polythene bag in a dustbin liner.
We've seen that all the way through. The Mistral has been picking up these light plastic items from all across the track. The plastic bags we've seen being pulled off the track by marshals, and I didn't know it was one of those. Put a new radiator on and filled the radiator up with coolant, as you do, but the trouble was the engine was so hot it was spraying a lot of it out. It took quite a while to fill the cooling system out.
Who's that off, Clive? It's a Honda, I can tell you that much, number 51.
Oh, it's 51. That's the Challenge AFC Endurance, who are doing very, very well in the race. The rider is down. Rosso, Sinibaldi and Invernizzi, the RC45. We've lost number 51. Everybody else moves up a slot. I would expect them to be not to be carrying on with this race.
More than once, yes. It's not a good rule. Not a good rule for us anyway.
Do you have to is there some sort of physical thing you have to do to walk away from the bike? You can't just sit there for a while.
You're allowed to gather your thoughts if you've just had a light spill, but the briefing I give to all our riders is just head back towards the machine.
Still 5.5 hours left to go, and still in the lead, the number 1 Suzuki. In third place is the number 4 Suzuki, sandwiching the Elf Honda in third place, Dafix Honda in fourth place, Free Bike Performance, number 24 in fifth, then the number 35 Motorshop Ego of the Honda that he's riding. The Honda's not having problems this year, but if you're too ham-fisted with any machinery, you can encounter problems. So Doug Poland stretching as best he can and trying to pull back. Basically what you're doing here is pushing the leader because the Castrol Suzuki, and I think
one's for early on in the race, but this morning's a bit of a quandary because the track's going to be so clean. The wind dropped, the rain has cleaned up the aggregate, the tarmac, and the track temperatures are going to be high. So we've got a couple of Dunlop compounds to try, but to be honest, I'm not sure which one we're going to go for.
Terry Reimer out on the number 1 Suzuki. Tyre choice was very difficult here from the start, actually, because the early rain in practice had cleaned up the track a lot and taken a lot of the surface rubber and all the lines that you're putting around the track has taken that off.
Well, we all do our reconnaissance up and down the pit lane, and by this time we're all looking at how to optimise these last 5 hours. So we know we have to come in every 50 minutes or so for fuel, but the strategy for tyres and pad wear can be altered. So what we're trying to do is minimise those stop times for the last 5 or so stops that we've got to do. So we're watching up and down at our competitors, they're watching us. We're all friends in this game, and we treat it with good humour. But nevertheless, we want to beat each other.
All the little niggly problems, and I'm sure that even in Works teams these will surface throughout the race. All those little things will have been well sorted by now, and it's up to Terry, Peter Goddard and Brian Morrison to keep this machine running at its pace all the way through the lap, all the way through the rest of the race for the next 5 hours, and hopefully everything, the Suzuki's current standings at the Bol d'Or. After over 19 hours of racing, the Suzuki is still 5 laps in front of the Elf Honda. You just saw Natalie Roche go down number 72. It happened just as we came on air. Welcome live back to the Bol d'Or, the 92nd Bol d'Or, Paul Ricard. Natalie Roche, we've been following her around for a little while, put it down on the knee and lost the front end going into the corner. It's got to be a big wake-up call for Natalie. She's okay. The bike goes into the gravel. We wonder how much damage there is there. They were still in the race, the all-girl team, I must add. Bit of a nasty knock, and we wonder if the bike is okay enough to start now. She walks away from the bike, as we heard before with Russell Benny. She's out of the race. They've taken the bike, they've pushed the bike away, but she's running back towards the bike. Obviously she wants to get that one going again. Don't know whether she can, and really bad luck for the number 72 machine, because they were down in 38th place. They weren't at the bottom, fairly close to it, but had a crash there. You're with the leader running through some back markers here. The Castrol Suzuki still out in the lead. Brian Morrison on boards. No change really in the top since we left you last time. It's still Suzuki, Honda, and by virtue of more points than anybody else, the Endurance Championship. But he would dearly love to win the ball. Natalie Roche able to push start the CBR seriously. We've also lost the Team Gio Kawasaki, who are supposed to be doing very well here, the number 94 machine. Natalie Roche back in, but number 72 taken into the garage. Really, you have to get all that out of the bike before you get back onto the track. Normally riding it across the bumpy runoff area will do a lot of that for you, but you've got to ride it back to the pits, and at that time you've got gravel in your boots as well. They locate the paddock stands very, very quickly. And there are the positions after nearly 21 hours of racing. The Dafix Honda, 14 laps down from the top three. But it puts Yamaha out of the frame. Kawasaki, with their mechanical problems, have put themselves out of the frame. Suzuki, anything can happen. A back marker cannot be paying attention. Of course, you've got to pay attention as well. But remember that these fast bikes are blasting past you, and you're concentrating, and he's not. It can cause you mega problems. Knows exactly the consistency needed not to stress the machine too much. You have to hand it over in pristine condition to the rider, number 72. Been doing some hasty repairs on this machine. That time for a back wheel change. That bike looked seriously second-hand actually when it started the race. There were still worn bits on the machine. The mechanics, all students. Number 3 Honda comes into the pits. The horns blow. Brian Morrison still out in front on the number 1 Suzuki. And it's been handling very well all the way through the race. I keep catching hold of Terry Reimer and Brian Morrison to gauge their look at the bike, find out if there are anything that there's not telling me, if they're a little bit worried about this or that. No, they're very happy out there. There's no tension in the team as well. Doug Poland of Bale's Mobile 1 Yamaha of no. The RC45 as it goes past you on the straight seems to sound like a massively amplified strip, tearing a strip of paper. Seems to tear the air as it goes past. The girls getting going again. Patricia Baudard, the Suzuki in 8th place, Ecurie Police, number 22 in 9th, and Motorshop 35, number 35 in 10th place. Jean-Pierre Jondat, it was on the machine. Now time for Mauro Luciari to do his stint on the Dafix Honda. Quick slot in for the front spindle, and the number 1 machine in as well. Terry Reimer taking over from Brian Morrison as the number 3 bike goes out. Mauro Luciari on board. Sorry, Dafix, and Mauro Luciari goes out. Number 7 bike in 4th place. Terry Reimer gives it a big stretch. The muscles must be seriously tired after this much racing. 21 hours done. Just as the LMS girls team. Some back markers in view for Doug Poland again. And once more, a safe pass is the order of the day. Knows he has to stay where he is, doesn't want anything silly to happen now. Choose his moment to blast the Honda past somebody else and make sure they're wide awake and knowing that you're coming. 21 hours. The time has stayed static for many hours now, the distance the same. Still 5 laps up on the Elf Honda. Number 1 still leading, Terry Reimer, bright orange-red helmet, easy to be seen, easy to spot. Reimer, Morrison and Goddard, the Suzuki, is still at number 1, 5 laps ahead, as it's been over many hours now. Bonoy, Mahe and Van der Bosch on the other Suzuki, 2 laps down from them.